All right, in this video, we're going to cover limits, but we're going to cover them, how to solve them analytically or algebraically using some tools from algebra, okay? Now, most of the time, when we have a limit, you're going to plug in, and you're going to end up with a 0 over 0. When that happens, that means we can do something to solve for the limit, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, let's think of a hole in the graph, right? So if we had a function, so let's say we had f of x. I'm trying to remember the one from yesterday, but it was something like x squared minus 4, and then let's say over x plus 2, okay? So if we did a limit for this, we would do the limit as x approaches -2. But let's just talk about the function here. First thing you would do here is you would factor the top, and you get x plus 2, and the x plus 2's cancel out. So we have a hole at x equals -2, okay? So, but if we did this as a limit to start with, let's say we did it as a limit to start with, limit as x goes to -2. If you plug the -2 into this, you're going to get 0 over 0. So when you get 0 over 0, most of the time, you can do something. So in this case, we factored, right? We factored to eliminate the issue, and then we got rid of the -2 part of it here, and then we're able to plug in, and then in this case, we would get -4. So that means there's a hole at -2, -4, but that's also the limit, right? If we had a graph with a hole at -2, -4, looks like that, the limit is -4. As I approach -2, my graph is approaching -4, okay? So what's the takeaway here? You first need to plug in. Okay, the AP demands that you show the 0 over 0, and then you're going to show what it is you're doing to come up with that limit. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to factor. That's going to be the first sort of tool that we use. So factor. Now I'm still going to plug in, but if I plug in here, we're going to get 0 over 0. So that means usually you can do something. Okay, first scenario is factoring, so I'm going to factor. So we're going to get the limit as x goes to -1. On top, we're going to get x plus 1, and then 2x minus 3. And then on the bottom, we get x plus 1, okay? Now these cancel. Now I go ahead and I plug in. So there's a hole at -1, but the limit still exists, okay? So if I plug in -1, we're going to get -5. So -2 minus 3, which is negative. All right, so next case here is going to be the conjugate. So again, you want to plug in. So if we plug in, you're going to get 0 over 0. I'm going to write it here. So I give myself some space over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate of the top. So it's root x plus 1 plus 2, root x plus 1 plus 2. All right, so you have to write the limit each time. Until you actually plug the value in, you must write the limit. So I'm going to FOIL the top, but it's a difference of squares, so we're just going to get x plus 1 minus 4. Now on the bottom, this is the trick to this question. You don't want to multiply it out, because remember, I'm trying to get rid of the x minus 3. So I'm hoping that I get x minus 3 on top, which is really what I got, right? We get x minus 3. I'm going to leave this like this, so it cancels, and then I'm just going to put what I multiply by. So x plus 1 and then plus 2, like that. So cancel, cancel, so it's 1 over that. Now from here I can plug in, so we're going to get 1 over 3 plus 1 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, and you get the limit, okay? So we've got factoring conjugate. Third scenario is going to be common denominator. And again, you want to plug in here, but we're going to get 1/4 minus 1/4, which is just 0 over 0. Okay, so you do get the 0 over 0. I'm going to get a common denominator for the top. So limit as x goes to 0. So it's 4 minus x minus 4. I'm kind of skipping a step here, but you should be able to follow. And then the bottom is 4x plus 4, so that's my common denominator, over x. So x over 1. So if I do like a state change flip, this goes like that. Because again, your goal is to get rid of that x. So somewhere I should be getting an x. So 4 minus 4 on top is the negative x. So they cancel. So we get negative 1. That's going to be the limit as x goes to 0, negative 1 over 4x plus 4. Plug in the 0. You get 4 on the bottom, so we get negative 1 over 16. Okay, so those are 3 common tools that we're going to use to find the limit. All right, the last idea is going to be trig functions. So thus far we've done factoring, conjugate, common denominator. So let's say you have something with, let's look at this example, limit as x goes to 0 of sine x over x. If you plug in 0, the sine of 0 is 0. That's the first thing you need to know your basic trig functions, at least the first quadrant. So sine of 0 is 0. So you're going to get 0 over 0 for this one, okay? So again, we can't factor it. It's not a conjugate. It's not a common denominator, so we have to do something. So what I'd like you to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the chart, but if you graph sine x over x and look at it, if you look at it, you're going to get a graph that looks like this. I'm going to draw it. So all we care about is around 0. So around 0, it looks like that, okay? So just go ahead and graph it in decimal so you get a nice little picture of it. So as it approaches 0 from the left and 0 from the right, we're approaching 1. So the answer to this question, so the limit, right down here, so limit as x goes to 0 of sine x over x is equal to 1. Now if we did the chart, obviously we can't plug in 0. You get 0 over 0. You're going to get 0.999, 0.999, 0.99. So you can see that it's going towards 1. So again, when you're doing a limit, your goal is going to be, can I take that part out to get rid of that 0, 0, and then evaluate the limit? So that's what we're going to try to do. So the first one is sine of k over k. So as long as these are the same, so k and k, like this and this, it's going to go to 1. Okay, so now if you look at the second one, you'll notice that they're not the same. Okay, you can't undo the sine of 5x. Okay, that's sort of attached, if you will. Okay, you can almost put parentheses around it. There's nothing we could do with that. So the question is, can we get the bottom to be a 5x? Okay, so you're going to manipulate it algebraically. So if I were to multiply this by 5 over 5, we can do it because it's just 1, so you're not changing the fraction. So we're going to get the limit as x goes to 0. So I get 5 sine of 5x, and then over, and then it's going to be, I'm going to separate the 4 and the x because it really doesn't matter if it's 4 times x like this. I'm going to put the 5 here. Okay, so I took this 5 here. Sorry, let's do it with an arrow. So I did this 5 here, and I put it here. Because really this is 20x, and this is still 20x, okay? I'm separating it so you can see it. So this now goes off to 1. 1 times 5/4 is 5/4, okay? So whenever you see the sine x, it's common in limits, whether it's on the top or the bottom. We definitely want to try to get it out of there for the most part, okay? Especially on the bottom, right? Because you get the 0 on the bottom. I mean, of course, you can get sine x over, I don't know, cosine of x as x goes to 0. That would be different. So if we had the limit as x goes to 0 of sine x over cosine x, this would simply just be a plugging in because you get 0 over 1, which is 0. Okay, but it's definitely something you want to be sort of on your toes about. And the question is, can we get it to this sine x over x so we can take that part off to 1? Okay, so when I look at this one, if we plug in, you do get 0 over 0. So I'm going to see if I can maybe factor the bottom. So limit as x goes to 0. So sine of x, and the bottom is x, 5x plus 1. This part can come out now. We can send this off to 1. Now I'm going to plug in. So we're going to get 1 over 0 plus 1, which is 1 over 1, which is simply just 1, okay? So again, just to reiterate, we've got factoring. So we're going to factor first, try to factor. We've got conjugate. We've got common denominator. And now we have the trig. All right, last thing we're going to touch upon is the sandwich theorem, aka the squeeze theorem. This is not too complicated, okay? It's really just, the AP recently has asked about the squeeze theorem every year. And it's really just having an understanding of the theorem. It's not terribly difficult. They ask it in weird sort of ways. Let's say, for example, that we had h of x a function. So let's say we have h of x, and we knew the function. So we could graph it by ourselves. We can graph it without a calculator. We can graph it by simply plugging in numbers. So we have enough information about h of x, and we have enough information about g of x. Okay, so again, it's something we're familiar with or something that we can graph. Then we have this function called f of x, but we know nothing about it except that it's between the two functions, okay? So it's always between the two functions. So for every value of x, f of x, the y values are squeezed, if you will, between the two functions. That's all we can deduce from the information that's given. Well, if I can find the limit of h of x, so if I look at this graph here, as h of x approaches c, the graph is going to this height, okay? And then as g of x approaches c, it's going to this height too. So both limits. So I could say the limit of, so as x goes to c of h of x is equal to L. Okay, again, either I could just plug in and I can figure it out, or I can look at a graph, but I can come up with the limit of h. I can come up with the limit of g as x goes to c. Well, I can certainly make the conclusion that the limit of f of x as x approaches c also goes to L. Okay, so we just have to somehow state that f of x is between g of x. Okay, so it's going to be less than or equal to some value, and then greater than or equal to some other value. It's always going to be squeezed between the two functions, okay? It's most commonly used for something like this. I jumped to this one, it's a little bit harder, but like this is a weird function to graph. Most of us cannot graph this function, okay? So what we would, without a graphing calculator, I should say. So it's a difficult function to graph. But we use the squeeze theorem a lot with trig functions like this, especially sine and cosine, because we could say the highest value of cosine, no matter what this is in here, okay? No matter what this is in here, the highest value of cosine is always going to be 1. And the lowest value is always going to be negative 1. So instead of leaving this function here, I can pull this out and say, you know what? It's just 1. So then my function now is x squared. And then I can come back and do it again, say, well, you know what? The lowest value is negative 1. So then my lower function is negative x squared. And we'll get to that in a second. Let's do the top one real quick. So they're telling us that g of x is between those two functions, x plus 9, and then 5 minus 3x minus x squared. So it's between for the entire time. Or it's the same value, okay? But it never goes above or below it. So we can figure out the limit as x goes to 2 of the function on the right, and we can find it for the function on the left. We can't directly find it for g of x because we don't know anything about g of x, right? They're just saying find the limit as x goes to 2 of g of x. We know nothing about the function. There's nothing to plug into. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the limit of the upper limit, the top function, okay? So we're going to find the limit as x goes to, negative 2 of x plus 9. And all I got to do is plug in, right? So this is 7. So we know g of x is less than or equal to. So we know this side is 7, okay? And then we could say the limit as x goes to negative 2 of 5 minus 3x minus x squared. If I plug in, we're going to get 5 plus 6 minus 4, which is also 7. Okay, so I know that it's less than... So the conclusion we could make is we could say that the limit as x goes to negative 2 of g of x is also equal to 7. And we can simply say by the squeeze theorem. Okay, so they'll often say justify your answer or just show it. They'll tell you use the squeeze theorem, show that the squeeze theorem applies. So they're giving you everything. You just have to show that you know how to use it. Okay, so you're simply going to find the limit on the right, limit on the left, and then our conclusion is that the function in the middle also goes to that value, and you could just simply state because of the squeeze theorem. Okay, all right, so for this one, this is more applicable. This is stuff we would do in Calc 2. So again, when you don't know much about a function, but we can compare it to another function, you want to find the worst case scenario. Like I always tell my kids, if you're going to build a bridge, you want to overestimate, not underestimate, right? We'd rather be a little bit longer than a little too short. Okay, so the bottom line is this, the absolute highest value that the cosine can ever come out to be is 1, right? Because the cosine function looks like this. And the lowest value is negative 1. So if I say, first, the maximum value is going to be 1. So we could say, so the limit as x goes to 0 of x squared times 1 is still just x squared. If I plug in, I'm going to get 0. Okay, so it's bounded by 0. I could say that the lowest value as x goes to 0, so I say this could be a negative 1, so it would be x squared times negative 1 is still going to be 0. Okay, so I know that this function is between, so I could say the limit, actually, let's just do this. Let's say that x squared cosine of 1 over x is always going to be less than or equal to x squared or greater than or equal to negative x squared. Okay, because again, you're sort of taking out this part of it and replacing it with just a 1 or a negative 1. So therefore, I'm just looking at this function. And now that's a function we can work with, right? We can find the limit as x approaches any number for x squared. Okay, so my conclusion here would be that the limit as x goes to 0 of x squared of cosine of 1 over x is equal 0. And you can simply say by the squeeze. All right, that's it for the squeeze theorem. Pretty easy to do. That's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this video helped.